Creaming honey. Nobody here has done, one person has done creamed honey before. Is a lot of ways to do kind of everything in beekeeping. I am not a super technical person, just generally. I kind of am a just wing it kind of person. So I'm going to tell you two sort of ways to do creamed honey. You can get far more technical with your creamed honey if you are the kind of person who loves that. I'm like do the minimal amount of work to make creamed honey sort of person. Okay, there are a couple things to think about. When we're doing creamed honey, what we want is for our honey not to crystallize into that awful rock hard bend your spoon sort of consistency. Honey is going to crystallize into different firmnesses depending on the composition of things like glucose and fructose in your nectar. So nectar that has higher glucose levels generally is going to crystallize quicker and into often a harder crystal. So if you look at honey like the honey that comes from canola nectar. Okay, so canola nectar crystallizes quite hard and also quite grainy. So it's a fairly chunky crystal, which doesn't generally make good creamed honey. However, if you are decrystallizing your canola honey, you can make very good creamed honey with it because you're wanting to change the crystal composition of your honey. What we're doing by creaming honey is we are kind of forcing the liquid honey to take on a different crystal composition than what it would naturally. In order for us to do that, we need to make sure that the honey that we start with has no crystals in it at all. Okay? Because you want it to take the crystals from the seed honey and to mimic that crystallization. Okay? So let's talk about the seed honey first. The seed honey is a honey that, it can be a crystallized honey that you like the consistency of, okay, which is what we're using here. This is Robert's creamed honey. He sells it as a seed honey in the store, but it is just a really nice consistency honey, and we're going to use that as our seed because we want this new honey to mimic this crystal composition and come out nice and soft like this. Okay, so when I'm making creamed honey, let's say I start with this seed, I'm going to make my own batch, and then I'm going to refill my seed honey container, and I'm going to use that honey for the next batch of creamed honey. So it's kind of like your sourdough starter or whatever it is, where you're kind of just using it again and again. Does that make sense? I just keep it in the cupboard. Yeah. And then sometimes somebody in my family will use it, and then I'll be like, "Wow, my seed honey." We had to save one jar. So yeah, you can, like sometimes people will be like, "Oh, I need more seed honey," but often you can just save enough from your last batch. Okay. So that's going to be the seed honey. We have our liquid honey here. So this honey is room temperature. It has been warmed and then it has been strained through a very fine strainer. Okay, we want to make sure that any crystals that are left in the honey are then strained out, like the pale strainer. Yeah, it is sort of like that consistency of like white, but I use like a pale strainer. So then I will liquefy it, decrystallize it in between 35 and 40 degrees. So it is 10 to 1, 10 parts liquid, 1 part seed honey. Yeah, if you can get it to go through the 200 mesh, but if you're warming it to 38 or 40 degrees, it's going to run pretty well through there because you want to get that totally decrystallized. So honey is going to pasteurize at about 60, I think the range is 62 to 71 degrees is a pasteurized honey. I heat it in a tank, but you could, you could put it in a stainless steel bowl and double boil it. But make sure that you're not overheating it. You are damaging a lot of the qualities of honey when you're getting kind of, over into the 50 degree range. Yeah, you can use like a candy thermometer. Who's really good spatula-ing here. Anybody want to help me out?
I'll help you out.
Thank you. Okay.
There we go. There we go.
You want to swipe this?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay, there you go. We killed it up here, guys. Thank you. Okay, so we're about that far from the top of the bowl. Okay. Okay, I have not ever done this in a mixer before. Well, I did it last night in a mixer. Usually I am using a creaming paddle like this, and I will do a batch like in a 5-gallon pail. This would just hook up to a drill, and then you can do like a large batch of it. But for the sake of something that most people will have, we're going to use a mixer today. What you want to keep in mind that is really important with cream honey is that we are not introducing air into the creamed honey when we're mixing it. So I've made this quite full. Now that I look at it, it's maybe a little fuller than I'd like. So we'll see, we might have to scoop some out. But the goal is to get this mixer completely submerged so that when you're mixing it, it's not mixing air into it. Because if you mix air into it, you're going to get a lot of foam on the top of your creamed honey. So it's just the consistency will be a little different, and you'll get like, so if I cream it and then I go and I don't let it sit and I put it in jars, all my jars will have kind of this on the top. It's just not as finished or as like, it's not as professional looking, I guess. Well, it doesn't crust. They are like bubbles. Yeah, and so you could let it set, and then you could use the saran wrap to pull that foam off. That's exactly 10 to 1. Okay, I have a very good eye for this. Oh, we are so living on the edge right now, guys. But we're so far safe, okay? No. I think this is probably like an 80-year-old mixer. It's different, right? Because it's just like, whoosh, like this is just like spinning like this. I move it in the bucket, but don't pull it up and down. Yeah. So if you want to come look at it or grab a cookie, this is going to take probably 10 minutes. Chat with your neighbor, marvel at how close we were to coming over the top, but we haven't.
Not yet.
You can tell me how practiced I am at this. So it's important with the creamed honey that you have the one that is round like this, not like a paint mixer. Yeah. Because the paint mixers, they kind of stick out like this, and they will scratch your plastic. And then you get these little pieces of plastic in your creamed honey. Yeah. So you want it to be smooth like this so you don't damage your bucket. Yeah. So and that's really the objective, right? Is because you want whatever your seed honey is to have the crystal composition that you want your full batch to have. Right. Yeah. So the smoother this is, whether it's just a crystallized honey that they've like beaten.
You can start with your own crystallized.
Oh yeah. And if you have like an urban honey that crystallizes very soft, because often urban honey, just because of the really diverse nectar composition, it's going to just crystallize softer. Yeah. So some of that really like nice stuff that doesn't like harden like a rock, I won't even liquefy it. I'll just whip it. So we can see with this, it's starting to look more crystally. I would probably leave it for 20 more minutes mixing, and then you're going to let it sit overnight, and you're going to do it again for multiple days. Well, you can see this because this is pretty full for this mixer. You can see it hasn't completely mixed yet. Okay. Yeah. So you want it to be where you're not seeing that variant between like the stuff that's mixed in and the stuff on the edge that like hasn't yet. Commercially, if you're using a commercial creamer, some people will cream it, and then chill it to 14 degrees, and then cream it, and then chill it, and then cream it, and then chill it. So once you have mixed it for the last time, you jar it. I like to put those cases of jars on my basement floor because it's cold, and that will set it to its kind of final consistency. All right, well, that is that, guys. If anybody has questions, feel free to ask. That's kind of all I got. Oh.